Okay, what I'd like to talk about today is character of medium and mark of the tool. I mentioned that in several of the modules, but I wanted to point out some areas in paintings from my personal collection that really illustrate these concepts. This is a Mark Daly. He's just a phenomenal painter, contemporary painter, and as you can see here, very expressive with the way he applies his paint. Some of these areas, the way it's laid down with just a bold, definitive stroke, almost looks like taffy. Looks like a mosaic of brushwork, but because his color and his value is so spot on, it really reads. If you get into some of these areas here, you can see a more whimsical application. You see broken color, like this area right here, just a beautiful area of broken color. But it really gives a presence to the painting that thin paintings oftentimes don't have. Now, the interesting thing in this painting is he keeps it fairly consistent throughout. The reason the background areas are staying back there is because he keeps the separation between the darker values and the lighter values very close. So just by virtue of that narrow value range, they stay back, and it pulls this forward. There's also some beautiful warm and cool color variations going on right in this area here where these coolest notes are, the warmer notes, so that it really reads beautifully. But we'll get in here and really zoom in on this and look at the application. We're dealing with oil paint, folks. There's a beauty to the character of this medium that goes beyond what I've been stressing in the module relative to drawing and value and design and color. This application of paint has an expressive just presence to it that makes it look like an artist who really loves their medium and their tools and the way they express things. But if you get in here and really start eyeballing some of these textural areas here, it's just beautiful work. Again, Mark Daly is a master of that, and he paints everything: figurative work, portraits, still lifes, landscape. So I enjoy having pieces in my collection like this that I can really get into and enjoy and learn from. Okay, so now that we're zoomed in, look at the variety of application here, from definitive single strokes of paint that are laid down and left, like you see here. Over here you can see where he's cutting back into that stroke once it's laid down. Up here you see how he took the brush and just sort of did a kind of a lyrical a stroke there to give variety. So it's not just the application of, or I'm sorry, the texture of the paint, but it's the way it's applied, the application as well. So all that variety adds interest to a painting in a way that goes beyond subject. So I really want you to think about this as you gain confidence in these fundamentals I'm really stressing. Again, drawing, value, design, and color. Now go into celebration of medium, like I say, and mark of the tool. These are so important. They're really fun. And your own personal calligraphy here, like you see in this area. Now, this piece here by Ned Jacob is a little different. It's the application of paint is very thin. Ned is an extraordinary draftsman, and so he can still get in and get the accuracy of drawing of these figures on horseback, and still be painterly without that thick application of paint. So my point of showing these two in contrast to one another is there's no one way. Somewhere in there is who you are and the way you handle things. All the importance are in these figures here. Look how simply this whole passage back here is painted in this area here. So you have an area of finish and an area of relief that supports it, active and passive kind of thing. And again, the drawing is always spot on with Ned's work. This is just a beautiful, simple statement. All right, now that we've pulled in a little tighter on this piece, you can see some textural paint and some direct application, but you also see very thin layers of paint there. Again, the drawing is always front and center in Ned's work because he is such an incredible draftsman. But you get back in here and this paint is very thinly applied. It's almost a wash if you look at it in areas like that. And it stays back and it allows the figures to come forward. So he's playing one off the other, even though overall it's very thin. The paint is applied in a very thin manner. Beautiful painting though. Okay, so on this piece, this is one of my paintings, and the whole point of this post is to get you folks to really start exploring and figuring out who you are as a painter. The thick painting that Mark Daly was applying and the thin paint that Ned was applying are two extremes. It's important that you practice and experiment with both of those, again, to find out who you are. For me, it's somewhere in between. One of the beauties, again, of oil paint is you can get very thin passages, like some of these initial washes that I had in here. And then next to that, a paint that's applied fairly heavily, like these areas here. And in contrast to one another, it adds real variety and interest. You can see areas where I've applied the paint to follow the form of this rock as it lays flat, and shadows that follow the directional movement of it as it comes this way, so that you begin to get a definitive description of what's happening on that flat plane there just by the way you apply your paint. So again, like I've said in the modules, keep the shadow areas thin, go a little thicker or as thick as you'd like on the sunstruck areas, because that's where you're going to see the texture, the sunstruck spots. But you see real variety. If you get in really close, you'll see that I've used a knife to lay this down. I've used a brush. I've cut back into it. All the above. And again, folks, this is just adding interest that goes beyond the subject. Hi, my name is Matt Smith. One of the primary goals of this online course is to give folks the opportunity to study with me for a full year at their convenience, on their own time frame. It's not always easy to block out a week or more time to travel to a distant location for the purpose of studying with an artist of choice. Allowing oneself to study as their schedule permits creates a more relaxed atmosphere, which in turn opens the mind to learning. This is an opportunity I really wish I had in my early years. The course begins with an introductory module covering the basic consideration of tools, equipment, studio arrangement, lighting, the importance of indoor versus outdoor time, photography as a tool, and much more. This first module will set the tone for the remaining modules, which will dive more deeply into the basics of drawing, value, design, and color. In the remaining 4 modules, I'll discuss why these basics are important, how to identify them, and in return, how to use them not only to analyze your chosen subject, but how to use them to create a blueprint for building your painting. It is so important to train your mind to see and think as an artist rather than someone who just documents what's in front of them. The way to do this is by understanding these fundamentals and applying them to the subject at hand. In other words, see by way of the basics, line, shape, value, etc., rather than all the physical components that make up the finished scene, like twigs, pebbles, and leaves. I'll then reinforce these concepts with both unedited visuals, photographs, and finished paintings that support the idea at hand. I'll then complete a demo of a subject that represents the particular fundamental addressed in each module. I'll also include a variety of photographic images for student use. Participants will also have access to me throughout the year by way of a private Facebook group. You'll be able to contact me with questions related to areas of difficulty or whatever you may be working on and want to discuss. This one-on-one time is where we can really fine-tune areas of interest for you. Thank you, and I really hope you can join me.